But anyway, first we're going to go to Russell, and what do you got for us?
Okay, well, it's been a while since I've managed to be on the show, actually. I think I missed a month.
Yeah.
Something really interesting happened to me during my month away, though. I saw Yasser Arafat.
Really? When he was supposed to die?
Well, I don't mean I saw him on TV or anything, but I actually, he was in my house, and...
Really now?
Yeah.
And he died, I believe it was about a month and a half ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, that's what I said to him.
Or at least that was on the news.
I said, I walked into my bathroom, and he was there taking a bath.
So Yasser Arafat, one, is not dead.
Yeah,
two, is not in the Middle East.
Well, that's what I thought, too. I said...
and three is in your bathroom.
Yeah. Well, he's not now, but I walked up to Yasser and I said, hey, Yasser, didn't you just die, like, right after the election? Because there was... I remember it was all over the news.
Okay.
And he said, yes, I did. But,
okay.
Allah brought me back 2 weeks later.
Okay, well,
and
the
I'm here
newscasters
to
must
tell you
have
about
had
the experience.
ball in your bathroom with this one.
Well,
was this on CNN, C-SPAN, and every other channel that we've ever heard of?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
But
did you bring them along?
Well, actually, it's funny you should mention that. I mean, I was...
We have it right here.
I was worried. No, I didn't bring him along today. I was worried, though, being the hardcore skeptic that I am, that if I just walked up to some of my friends and said, hey, Yasser Arafat was in the bathtub, they'd probably react the way you're reacting now.
Yes.
And I was worried that I wouldn't have any proof of my story. But luckily, when he was done, he got out of the tub and he toweled off and he got dressed up in his robes. And he said, I'm very bored.
Did he leave an image of himself in the room?
Well, wait a minute.
Okay.
I'm very bored sitting in this house, he said. So can you take me somewhere? And so I thought, well, he's probably not spent much time in Austin, so I took him downtown. And while we were downtown, about 900 other people saw him.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Do we have any of them along?
No, I mean...
Pictures?
No.
News stories from them? If 900 people saw him, one of them must have worked for the news studios.
I wouldn't know who was there. I mean, Austin's a big place.
Okay.
But I mean, if you want to,
these people?
If you want proof that he was there, all you have to do is find one of these people yourself and ask them, and they'll tell you that I'm telling the truth.
Okay. And do we know that it was actually him and perhaps not somebody dressed up?
No, it was definitely
Granted, I would
him.
think most people on 6th Street, when was this, on Friday night? Most people on a Friday night on 6th Street are probably not going to be coherent enough to say, ooh, Yasser Arafat.
Well, some of them must have been, and you can take it up with the witnesses when you talk to them.
Okay, all right.
Anyway, so I just thought that was an interesting story. So now here's my topic for today. It's evidence.
Of which we are demanding.
See, people a lot of times ask us atheists, what is the single best argument you can make to prove that there is no God? And to me, I think there's really only one answer possible to that question, which is there's just no evidence. There's no reason to believe that he does exist. Of course, the most typical source that we get for here's some evidence of God is, that one book, the Bible. This is from 1 Corinthians chapter 15. It says, and he was seen of Cephas. This is Jesus they're talking about.
Okay.
Then of the 12. And after that, and it's Paul writing about him, about seeing Jesus after he died.
Okay, yes.
And he was seen of Cephas, then of the 12. After that, he was seen of about 500 brethren at once, of whom the greater part remain unto this present, but some are fallen asleep. And after that, he was seen of James, and then of all the apostles. So you see, if you doubt the existence of Jesus, Paul says there were 500 other people who saw him.
Okay.
So doesn't that convince you? You could just decide, all right, skeptics are mean. I don't like it when people question and ask for evidence. So I think if you're a nice person, you really just have to believe what people tell you.
Okay.
And not argue about it.
Okay.
There are a couple of problems with this strategy, though. First of all, one problem is that if you go with this, then you're going to believe anything anybody tells you, and some of those things are going to be contradictory.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, recently I heard a lot of people saying George Bush is the best candidate out there. And I heard a lot of people saying John Kerry is the best candidate out there. And so what I'd have to believe is that, I apologize for still bringing up elections, but I'd have to believe that George Bush is better than John Kerry, and John Kerry is better than George Bush, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But besides that, besides the fact that you could wind up believing things that aren't true or believing things that actually contradict each other, there's a bigger problem, which is that you'll probably wind up believing a lot of things that are actually dangerous to you. Let me give you an example. My name is Mbasa Gunaraka. I am a wealthy Nigerian businessman. I have $900 million in the bank, and all I need is someone to help me move it out of the country. So if you could just get in touch with me.
And it is still amazing how I still hear stories of people who are supposed to be relatively intelligent falling for that.
Yeah.
And siphoning over $1 million over to these people.
People are fallible.
I can't get over it. But anyway.
Another one that I like to point out is if you drink this delicious poison, then you will not die, but you'll be instantly transported to a spaceship that's currently hiding behind that asteroid over there.
Yes. Hail Bob.
Comet. And then there's just the more mundane claims that you hear all the time, like, buy our product and you'll be really cool and popular and successful and sexy.
Yeah.
I
like
suppose.
Beer.
Yeah. I suppose if you believe one of those things once in a while, there's no real harm done. But if you believe all of them, then you'll have to buy everything on the market, and you'll go
Fat,
bankrupt.
overweight alcoholic who is not getting any women.
And no money. So it matters how you decide to put your belief in something or not put your belief in something. But, you know, the interesting thing about all these claims I've just made is that, again, you can't prove that they're not really true, right? I mean, just because there are all these stories of people gradually getting their life savings sucked out by Nigerian con artists, and some of them actually go to Nigeria and like get their throats slit, and these scams are like the biggest business in Nigeria.
I've heard that. I haven't heard so much on those, but anyway, side story.
Just because there are all those stories out there doesn't mean that you didn't happen to get an email from the one legitimate businessman who lives in Nigeria.
Yeah. Who actually does have $900 million.
Yeah, and really has the best of intentions.
Exactly.
Just because you've never seen anybody drink poison and then poof, wind up on a comet, doesn't mean that it didn't happen. So, I mean, really, you can't prove things like that are false.
Yeah. It's very hard to prove things that didn't happen, prove negatives.
Right.
Unless they're logical inconsistencies, you basically can't do it. Show it's unlikely, but...
Yeah. Well, so the answer is, you should be skeptical. That's something we try to promote a lot on the show. And I want to point out, being skeptical doesn't mean that whatever somebody says to you, you automatically believe the opposite. That there are sort of caricatures of skeptics that some people like to draw. I'm not just talking about Christians, I'm talking about various pseudoscientists and so forth. It doesn't mean that you just disbelieve or you believe the opposite of whatever anybody tells you. Of course, there's that word again, know. You never really know whether something is true or false, but there comes a point when you've collected enough evidence one way or the other, where the preponderance of evidence points to deciding true or false, one way or the other. So, more broadly, we're talking about the way that you can decide what to believe and what not to believe, and that's sort of what the scientific method was made up for. It's sort of a standard, rigorous method that you can apply to any claim to figure out whether it's likely to be true or not, and how much confidence you should have in believing that claim.